governing the Equalization Fund and extend the timeline. Extending this timeline will enable us to recover lost time and maximize the fund's potential to deliver transformative results. Secondly, we know that the Commission on Revenue Allocation is yet to review and publish the third policy of marginalization as required. I therefore call upon the CRA to expedite the development of a comprehensive marginalization policy that redefines and refines the understanding of marginalization, considering the structural and historical issues. However, this must not be conflated with aridity or environmental challenges linked to climate change. It must also not be conflated with pockets of marginalization, with pockets pockets of marginalization within counties. Historically, marginalized counties, predominantly located in the ASAL regions, have long endured limited access to basic services. We should focus more on uplifting communities whose marginalization is rooted in decades of neglect. By doing so, we'll preserve the fund's integrity and ensure its impact is sustainable. Thirdly, I urge the National Treasury and Parliament to expedite the appropriation and payment to the fund of their outstanding entitlement allocated so far. Since inception, only 12.5 billion has been paid out of the fund, with arrears of over 60 billion shillings yet to be appropriated by Parliament. For the fund to realize its intended objectives, the allocation should be timely, current, and predictable. As I conclude, I reiterate the significance of this occasion as it exemplifies what is possible when the national and county governments work together with a shared vision. These projects will not only improve access to critical infrastructure and services, but also restore the dignity of communities that have long been left behind. As the Council of Governors, we remain steadfast in our commitment to supporting this initiative and advocating for the policy adjustments required to optimize its impact. Together, let's build a more equitable and inclusive nation where no citizen is left behind. Your Excellency, I'll just end by saying two things. One, for this fund to really meet its intended purpose, the application of the funds should be such that we're able to do projects that are significant. We feel that this last cycle of implementation sort of split the monies too much, such that it was very minute projects in very many places. Of course, even those do help, but because this is something outside of the equitable share, it would have been nice to leave it to the planning at the county level so that this money can help do projects which counties will struggle to do out of the equitable share. And two, just a special request that I want to make to my friend, the Honorable PCS Mudavadi. You know, we're already struggling with pending bills in the counties. So the chair has told me that part of the money has been released and it's already in the account. I'll appreciate if the rest can also be released so that as soon as people complete the projects, we're able to pay them and it doesn't add to our situation of pending bills. With those many remarks, I thank you all, and I think this is a day that we're all looking to because we have been talking about these projects for quite some time. I appreciate that on behalf of the President, the PCS took his time to come and launch them today. God bless you all.
A round of applause, please. Your Excellency, with your permission, I would want to give, the CRA is an integral part of this process, and we are lucky to have the chair of the board, CPA Mary Wanyonyi, to make a few remarks.
Thank you. Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, FCPA John Badi, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury, Economic Planning, the Chair of the Council of Governors, the Chair of the Equalization Fund Board. Allow me to ride on the protocols earlier addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to stand before you today as we reflect on the journey we have undertaken to ensure equitable development for all regions of our great nation. Today, I'm honored to speak about the Equalization Fund and the role it plays in uplifting marginalized areas in our county, in our country, ensuring that no one is left behind. Our Prime Cabinet Secretary, if you can indulge me, please allow me. I'm accompanied by the commissioners of the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Please, wherever they are, kindly stand up. With us is the Vice Chairperson, Mr. Olekina Karibu. Next to him is Dr. Isabel Waiyaki, Commissioner. And next to Dr. Waiyaki is Commissioner Hadija Nganyi. And next to Commissioner Hadija is Commissioner Jonas Kuko. On my left, or the left of the podium, is also Commissioner Honorable Fatuma Gedi. Thank you. I think I better clap than that. Thank you. Let me begin with the Constitution of our Republic, which lays the foundation for our efforts under Article 216, Sub-Article 4, which mandates the Commission on Revenue Allocation to determine, publish, and regularly review a policy that will guide in identifying marginalized areas. This is important as it shapes how we allocate the Equalization Fund, ensuring the funds reach those who need them most. Again, as established under Article 204, which you have heard the COG allude to, Sub-Article 1, the Equalization Fund was created with a clear goal to address the disparities in the provision of basic services such as water, roads, health facilities, and electricity in marginalized areas. This fund is made up of 0.5% of all revenue collected by the national government each year and is calculated on the basis of the most recent audited accounts of revenue received as approved by the National Assembly. A Prime Cabinet Secretary, the fund has a sunset clause of 20 years, and the Commission is aware of ongoing discussions, including efforts by Parliament to extend its lifespan as provided in Article 204, Sub-Article 7. The fund has allocated approximately 66.1 billion since its introduction, with 12.4 billion of this amount appropriated under the first policy of 2013. The remaining funds are expected to be appropriated in the second and third policies. These are not just numbers. These are the resources that can transform the lives of marginalized communities. However, due to delays in implementation, a number of areas still lag behind. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2013, the Commission prepared the first policy, which identified 14 marginalized counties. This policy guided the sharing of funds for the financial year 2014-15, 2015-16, and 2016-17, amounting to 12.4 billion. The implementation of this policy began in earnest with the formation of the Equalization Fund Advisory Board in 2013. Then, in 2017, the Commission developed the second policy, changing focus from identifying marginalized counties to identifying 1,424 specific areas in 34 counties. This policy also identified 4 minority groups: the El Molo, Makonde, Waata, and Dorobo Sadieta as being marginalized. The second policy guided the sharing of funds for the financial years 2011-12 to the financial year 2020-2021. And this was an amount of 23.7 billion. Amendments were made to the second policy by the Commission to allow for an addendum that would appropriate money for the financial years 2011-12 to 2013-14, amounting to 7.6 billion, to the 14 counties identified as marginalized in the first policy. The Public Finance Management Equalization Fund Administration Regulations of 2021 provided for implementation of the second policy as a conditional allocation to the county governments. Today, the Commission on Revenue Allocation is proud to witness the commencement of its implementation. This would not have been possible without the dedicated efforts of the Equalization Fund Board and the county governments. I want to take a moment to congratulate everyone involved in bringing us to this point and encourage the counties to ensure that these funds are utilized effectively to transform the lives of communities in these marginalized regions. Looking ahead, the Commission is already at work developing the third policy. This policy will take into account the lessons learned from the first two, ensuring that we refine our approach to defining marginalization in a way that maximizes both efficiency and effectiveness. We will continue to engage with stakeholders to ensure that any shortcomings from previous policies are addressed in this new approach. In conclusion, this is more than just a matter of funding. This is about transforming the lives of the people who have been historically left behind. It is about ensuring that every Kenyan, regardless of where they live, has access to the same opportunities, services, and quality of life as their counterparts in more developed areas. While much remains to be done, Prime Cabinet Secretary, to achieve the fund's goals, I am encouraged by today's launch and grateful for your ongoing dedication to this vision. Together, we can continue building a nation where every citizen has the opportunity to succeed. Asanteni sana.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is now my honor to welcome the chair to introduce the Cabinet Secretary. Before he does that,
PCS, I apologize for the breach of protocol. The chair of the CRA has thrown me under the bus by introducing her board, and I didn't do mine because of observance of time. Kindly, board members, can you rise, if you don't mind? This is Mr. Khalif. Mr. Khalif represents Parliament. We have a parliamentary representative in our board. Next to him is Mr. Odanga Victor. Odanga is a representative of Senate. Is a board member, an independent board member. Mr. Maurice Ogola represents the Ministry of Devolution. FCPA Abdul Razak is an independent member. Madam Bokayo is an independent member, and Lemosa is also an independent member, and Mr. Mbadi represents the CS National Treasury. Thank you so much. The member represents COGS.
Okay, and now it is my honor and pleasure to invite the CS National Treasury, Honorable John Mbadi.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. Allow me to ride on the already established protocol to make my few remarks I'll actually not read my speech, Your Excellency. And I know you will bring the apologies of the President, who actually was supposed to officiate this event, but because of commitments, you are representing him. So, Your Excellency, we are all aware that the Equalization Fund was actually established through the 2010 Constitution, which then set out under Article 204(1) that at least 0.5% of the revenue collected by the national government should be put into this fund. This is calculated on the basis of the latest audited and approved financial statements of the national government by the National Assembly. And this fund was supposed to be very specific, deliberate, and targeted. That is why it is clear in the Constitution that only 4 areas were to be covered: water, road sector, health, and electricity. If you look at Article 204(3) of the Constitution, it speaks to how this money should be expended. And so it could be done directly or indirectly through conditional grants to counties. The first, as has been mentioned, the first policy, which was developed 3 years after this fund came into operation. Actually, the first 3 years, with the advent of the Constitution, Your Excellency, this fund never received any money because there was no legal framework, there was no instrument. So later, from 2013-2014, 2014-15, 2015-16, appropriation was made through an Appropriation Act in 2018 to actualize the fund, and over 12 billion shillings was allocated to this fund. But Your Excellency, the first policy saw the fund administered directly by the national government through line ministries, MDS. And this was done through guidelines. There was no legal framework, but there were guidelines on the administration of this fund. And then in 2019, November, to be exact, 5th of November 2019, the High Court declared these guidelines unconstitutional, null, and void, thereby disbanding what was called the Equalization Fund Advisory Board, and this halted further expenditure from the fund. And then the court directed National Treasury to develop a statutory instrument on the administration of this fund. It is on this basis then that the Public Finance Management Equalization Fund Administration Regulations of 2021 were passed. And so by 29th of April 2021, this paved way for the indirect administration of the fund through the county governments as conditional grants. And this is done now. You have to have an Appropriation Act of the Equalization Fund, what we call Equalization Fund Appropriation Act, for each respective year. And that follows the DORA. So, Your Excellency, 2 policies have been developed since the beginning of this fund. One that ran through to 2018, and then 2018, a new policy was developed. The first policy worked with 14 counties, which were marginalized areas, and the focus of planning and budgeting was at the 14 counties. Now, Your Excellency, this has been changed in the second marginalization policy through the input of CRA to now put it to areas, and the areas have been reduced now to sub-locations. So the second policy is covering 1,424 areas, 366 wards, 111 constituencies, and 34 counties. Your Excellency, I know this is going to be controversial, but you see, one reason why I'm at the Treasury is to give advice. It can be taken, it can be ignored. This fund was supposed to have impact, high impact. Spreading it thin, in my view, does not help the cause. I know there are marginalized areas almost everywhere across the country, including where I come from. In fact, 1 or 2 sub-locations in my constituency where I used to represent for 15 years are also benefiting. But I am not Cabinet Secretary to represent my area. I am Cabinet Secretary in charge of National Treasury for the whole country. So if something is not working, let us look at it. For me, my suggestion is simple. CRA, kindly, we need a debate, but kindly recommend we go back to a few counties where this money can have impact. This money was not meant to be spread this thing. That is my view, and I hold it so strongly. You can have a different opinion, but that is the fruit of democracy. We speak our minds. So, Your Excellency, I'm very proud that the actualization of this fund is now being done when I'm the Cabinet Secretary. So it is one of the things I'm very, very proud of. I know we have been implementing 360 projects, and I wanted just to answer or respond to the Chair Council of Governors that I've been assured that there are no pending bills under the Equalization Fund, that it is managed in a way that we procure what we can pay. As we speak today, out of the 10 billion which was appropriated to this fund in 2023, by the way, there have only been 2 appropriations, 2018 and 2023. The appropriation of 2023, we have released already as National Treasury 2 billion shillings to this fund, and 1 billion has actually been released to the counties which are supposed to implement this. My guarantee is that we will make sure that we release all this money to the areas where it should be spent. So, Your Excellency, I wanted to just mention some of the challenges so that I conclude. It would be deceptive, Your Excellency, and that is not my character, to present as though the implementation of the fund has not been without challenges. The following are the challenges. 1, the long process of putting in place instruments for the fund, specifically the Appropriations Act. This has contributed to delays and accumulation of arrears. So we have representation here, we have members of parliament, both houses, National Assembly and the Senate, kindly fast track the appropriations of this fund. It doesn't help us to accumulate arrears. It puts pressure on us as National Treasury. If we would be seamlessly transferring the funds, appropriating and transferring the funds, then National Treasury would find it easy to release these funds. So that is the first ask from me. The lifespan of this fund has already been talked about. Again, the ball comes to Parliament. You need to relook or come up with amendments so that this fund is given another lease of life beyond the 20 years that was put in the Constitution. Again, in this Equalization Fund, there is no administration. There is no administration cost. So you have various technical committees at the county, you have committees at the sub-county, and you have the implementation committees at the sub-location of the area, as it is today, with no resources to implement or oversight or oversee the implementation of the project. That is something also that needs to be looked into. Again, I have already spoken to the shift from the focal point being counties to the areas which are considered marginalized, that we need to rethink that, and again, so that these funds can have high impact. Finally, allow me to commend the Equalization Advisory Board under the chairmanship of Ambassador Mahbub. and also the Secretariat under Mr. Guyo, the CEO, that they have done tremendous work in the face of these operational challenges that have been hindering the process. So it is now, Your Excellency, I don't want to go beyond this because I know you are pressed time, you have another function to attend. It is now my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Could we put our hands together, rise on our feet and invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Waziri. Please be seated. The Honorable Minister, or rather Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Mbandi, the Chair of the Council of Governors, Abdullahi, governors present who were introduced to us before, legislators, members of both the Senate and Parliament, MCAs also present, and before I go through this protocol, let me also take the opportunity to recognize Nangao. Please stand up, because I'm wearing another hat in the interim. Thank you for being present. Asante sana. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am reading the speech by His Excellency the President. He was supposed to be with you here, and I wish to affirm that he is a committed supporter of devolution, and due to unavoidable circumstances he was not able to be here, so I'll read his remarks. Today I stand before you to celebrate the strides we have made in addressing this historical issue that continues to shape the social fabric of our nation: marginalization in Kenya. This phenomenon affects regions and communities, particularly ethnic minorities and indigenous people groups, leading to their exclusion from vital social, economic, and political spheres, hampering local development of the country. Our progressive Constitution of 2010, under Article 204, provides a framework to address the historical exclusion that Kenyans living in marginalized areas have suffered. As a country, it has taken a long time to actualize this Article 204. My administration is committed to fully operationalizing this article to ensure provision of basic services to every Kenyan. Enhancing access to basic services for all Kenyans is core to our bottom-up economic agenda. My government is committed to investing the necessary resources to achieve the objectives of Article 204 and ensure that every Kenyan everywhere has access to quality services such as health, water, electricity, and roads at all times. We know the consequences of economic and social exclusion are so dire, and as a country, we should not allow it to continue in our society. The process of identification and prioritization of projects funded by the Equalization Fund perfectly mirrors the bottom-up approach to development. Villagers in places such as Marigat in Baringo North, to Baraki in Lagdera, and Nyakondo in Nyatike, sitting and agreeing on their priorities without a doubt. Without a doubt, the official launch of 1,236 projects to be implemented in 1,424 marginalized areas spread, as you heard the Minister say, in 366 wards, 111 constituencies, and 34 counties, is a testament of my administration's assurance to all Kenyans in every corner of the nation. Notably, 115 classrooms will be constructed, 177 boreholes drilled and equipped to provide water, 41 water ponds excavated, and 176 health facilities constructed, with 53 equipped to serve the public. The implementation of these projects at a cost of 8.1 billion is going to ensure services reach 6 million Kenyans that live in these marginalized areas. Despite the slow operationalization of Article 204 due to obstacles such as litigations, my administration is committed to its full implementation. It is notable that under my administration, the Equalization Fund has ensured implementation of 359 projects, out of which 265 are complete and ready for handover today. These projects will benefit over 9 million Kenyans residing in the 14 counties identified as marginalized in the first policy. I have noted with concern that some of the challenges raised include the slow process of putting in place legal instruments such as the Equalization Appropriations Acts by the legislature. I want to ask the leadership of Parliament to support my administration and the people of Kenya by fast-tracking enactment of the legal instruments for the fund to enable my government effectively serve the marginalized areas and communities. On the impact of the fund, I am convinced, and I believe all Kenyans share this conviction, that the spirit behind the Equalization Fund is to have high-impact projects to enable the marginalized areas enjoy services now and for generations to come, like all other citizens. I want to ask the CRA to work with the National Treasury, all relevant government agencies, and the marginalized communities to come up with a model policy that reflects the spirit of the Constitution and the desire of the people of Kenya. Since the fund has a lifespan, we must use public resources and the limited time we have to invest in projects that will serve Kenyans in the marginalized areas for many years to come. CRA should also think of a threshold for a county to be categorized as marginalized. The administrative costs for implementing the fund may outstrip the benefits when marginal allocations are involved. We are all aware that the government is faced by revenue shortfalls, even as the National Treasury and Parliament put in place revenue-enhancing measures. In the face of these shortfalls, my administration, through the National Treasury, is committed to fully implement the plan that has been agreed upon by all parties to clear the arrears owed to the Equalization Fund. This will allow us to avail equal opportunities to all Kenyans, including those living in the marginalized areas. As we celebrate the full operationalization of Article 204, I want to laud the National Treasury and the Equalization Fund Advisory Board for launching the strategic plan today, through which we can hold the fund to account on delivery of the projects of Article 204 of the COK. I must emphasize that we are obligated to uphold transparency and accountability. In the implementation of the projects, Kenyans will be keenly monitoring the promises you have made in the strategic plan and will not hesitate to hold you to account on any failures. Finally, I invite all patriotic Kenyans to contribute in safeguarding the investments that we make with public resources. Let us all guard against plunder or vandalization of these projects so that our children can benefit from the services and put marginalization to the grave where it belongs. Kenyans, let us keep up the excellent work, selfless dedication, and invaluable contribution in our communities. I also want to ask Kenyans living in marginalized areas to embrace alternative mechanisms to address disputes that may arise in the implementation of the Equalization Fund. We have seen numerous litigations slow down the fund and delay the benefits that are due to these areas. And now it is my pleasure to hand over the following 265 projects in 14 counties, and I believe they shall be reflected on the screen as I mention them. Now, I officially launch implementation of the following 1,236 projects, and let me very quickly just go through them, and I hope they'll be beamed. We start with Baringo County. There are 141 projects valued at 559.4 million Kenya shillings. In Bungoma, there are 7 projects valued at 58 million Kenya shillings. In Busia, there are 3 projects valued at 18 million Kenya shillings. Elgeyo Marakwet, 56.6 million worth of projects, which number 16. In Garissa, there are 20 projects valued at 168 million Kenya shillings. Homa Bay, 29, valued at 122 million Kenya shillings. Isiolo, 25, valued at 166 million Kenya shillings. Kajiado, 27, valued at 195.7 million shillings. Kilifi, 58 projects valued at 501 million Kenya shillings. Kisumu, 4 projects valued at 24 million Kenya shillings. Kitui, 111 projects valued at 384 million shillings. Kwale, 60 projects valued at 282 million Kenya shillings. Laikipia, 34 projects valued at 116 million Kenya shillings. Machakos, 2 projects valued at 13 million Kenya shillings. Mandera, 87 projects valued at 733 million Kenya shillings. Marsabit, 81 projects valued at 395 million shillings. Meru, 6 projects valued at 29 million Kenya shillings. Migori, 41 valued at 173 million Kenya shillings. Murang'a, 1 valued at 5.6 million Kenya shillings. Nakuru, 1 valued at 6.4 million Kenya shillings. Nandi, 30 projects valued at 117 million Kenya shillings. Samburu, 39 projects valued at 636 million Kenya shillings. Siaya, 7 projects valued at 32 million Kenya shillings. Taita Taveta, 3 projects valued at 13 million Kenya shillings. Tana River, 47 projects valued at 319 million Kenya shillings. Tharaka Nithi, 9 projects valued at 26 million Kenya shillings. Trans Nzoia is 1 valued at 7.5 million Kenya shillings. Turkana, 84 projects valued at 1 billion and 75 million Kenya shillings. Wajir, 192 projects valued at 634 million Kenya shillings. And West Pokot, 70 projects valued at 1 billion and 21 million Kenya shillings, a total of 8 billion and 90 million 610 and 726.57 Kenya shillings, and projects in total 1,236. I therefore officially launch the Equalization Fund Strategic Plan of 2024 to 2028.
Big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
My brother, as we walk down, let me just echo your 2 points. One, we walked this devolution journey some time back when I was the Minister for Local Government. We were at the core of making sure that the legislations anchoring and supporting devolution would be in place, at least the initial ones. And the issue around this Equalization Fund was a critical discussion in Naivasha when we were discussing the 2010 Constitution. And I just want to support what you said, that first, it is supposed to have been a targeted fund. So we need to live up to the basic principles around it. Secondly, it was not designed to be a political fund. It is an equalization fund, not a political fund, not for the general intervention that we politicians make. It is supposed to be very specific and let us live up to the mandate that is expected of it. Thank you and congratulations to all the representatives and all the counties that have benefited from this, and especially those that have successfully implemented their projects. Asante sana.
Once again, let's give the Prime CS a big round of applause. They shall walk down right now to officially launch the strategic plan. Let's unveil the model. So the Prime Cabinet Secretary will press and officially launch the strategic plan. So we can, one, everybody please. 1, 2, 3, 4, and press it. And there we go. With all the pyros, makofi tafadhali, makofi. Makofi tafadhali. Makofi, 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 makofi. We shall hand a copy to the chair of the board. Have a copy, please. So one copy to the chair of the board to hand over the official copy. So that is everybody will get a copy, and that is the strategic plan, ladies and gentlemen. Songa kidogo tafadhali. Songa. All right. Okay. So, thank you. We shall do a quick photograph with the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the CS, and the board of the from Equalization Fund, please, if you don't mind. Tafadhali, the board, the governors. So let's do the governors. Thank you very much for that direction. The governors, tafadhali. Governors kwanza, tafadhali. Governors, tafadhali. I know the space is limited. Let's have the governors. With the start of the governors, I would suggest you come here, the cameraman, please, this side. Usongeshe mbele.